You brought up the Penny thing. That's why it's even more egregious, in my opinion, his killing of that man. I don't believe there was any type of threat that justified holding this guy in a chokehold for that many minutes.
You weren't even there. What do you mean you didn't feel like it? What does that have to do with anything?
What do you think the penalty should be? Like, do you think they're charging him, I think, with negligent? Is it
Tim is he just might not have been in the mood. He's very soft here.
negligent homicide? I'm not sure.
At the very least, manslaughter. Generally, I don't really parse out court cases. If there's a charge, as a matter of public policy, people should be charged. Beyond that,
what does it mean that you
I
don't
didn't even watch the OJ trial.
What does that mean that you don't parse out court cases? Just say you're not following it. What does that mean, I don't parse out court cases? You're saying why it was so bad he had to step in and yoke out a lunatic on the train. Jordan Neely's life, what happened to his life was sad. But what does that have to do with me and my family and my safety? What am I going to do? Live in fear? I'm going to be in the train in fear of this bruh who's completely lost his mind?
Trial.
I'm curious.
And then he says, well, I'm not following the trial. Oh, that's convenient, because what's happening in the trial doesn't line up with you saying that he just yoked him out and wanted to unlive him. So that's convenient. I don't know where Tim is. Tim says nothing. You know, I saw this when Tim was on with, and I think it's because he's in these negotiations. He talked about it in this live here. He's in negotiations to license out. It's obviously with Daily Wire, but maybe there's others too. Since the tenant media stuff fell through, he fired Cassandra. She's not there anymore, so now the Daily Wire can go. The Daily Wire wasn't going to do any type of licensing deal or any deal while Cassandra was associated with the company. She's too influential and vocal, and she's been vocal against Ben and Daily Wire. As soon as I saw that, I was like, we know this is not going to last too much longer, because that's where Tim has been trying to get revenue. Tim is softening to be more of a lefty under the Daily Wire. They have Matt. They don't need Tim as a more liberal lefty, even maybe a little bit libertarian. You see how he fits in the portfolio. If they bring Tim in, how does Tim fit in the portfolio? He's MAGA. He's got a lot of Trump people, but he's been doing more appearances. He's a liberal skateboard dude. I've always said that. He's more lefty. He's changing positions. I talk to people on the left all the time. You might hear different positions from me because they talk about healthcare. I do have different positions on healthcare, universal basic income. Maybe that might be it. I think if both guardians agree and the doctor agrees and the child agrees to do whatever gender affirming care, it ain't got nothing to do with me, even though I do think it is bad, demonic, but I don't think the government needs to get involved. They need to make I fully believe in somebody's right to make terrible decisions. So I don't talk about that much on this channel. If I talk with a lefty like Sam Seder, he would bring some of that out. But that's not what we're seeing with Tim. We're seeing the position different. Tim has never been this soft when we bring up the topic of what happened in that subway with Jordan Neely and Daniel Penny. Never heard him this soft on it. I don't understand why his demeanor and position is this soft.
Great. You brought up the Penny thing. That's why it's more egregious, in my opinion, his killing of that man, because I don't believe in that situation there was any threat that justified holding this guy in a chokehold for that many minutes.
What is a threat that would justify that? Is that a legal interpretation? Then he says, I'm not following the court case. If you don't know what happened, then shut up.
What do you think the penalty should be? Do you think they're charging him with negligent? Is it negligent homicide?
The charges are second-degree manslaughter and criminally negligent homicide. So, yeah, basically what Tim was saying.
But generally, as a rule, I don't really parse court cases. If there's a charge, as a matter of public policy, there are instances where people should be charged. I didn't watch the OJ trial.
I'm curious about your thoughts on this story.
Wait, hold up. You say, what did you say? You don't parse out the court. And then later on, he's talking about they get into the lawyers and the lawfare against Jenna Ellis and Trump lawyers just for being lawyers. How am I going to talk to you about this? The red pilling of these things is when you parse out the court cases. The real red pilling of the George Floyd situation that happened with me was listening to literally every second of the court case. The Rittenhouse case, that was a long one. I heard a lot of it. That was the height of LawTube. Man, LawTube's in a much different place now. Things happen quickly. But I listen to a lot of that course. That's when you listen to the court cases, you're under oath, man. The whole thing changes. Facts come up that the news don't cover. It's red pilling. That's why some of these cases they don't want televised. Some they said LawTube can't comment on. I think the Amos Miller stuff, I don't think that's televised. Is the Amos Miller trial, I don't know where we are with that. I gotta watch that trial. That was the Amish dude. Legal proceedings involving Amish farmer Amos Miller have not been televised. What is that? It's not even a federal case. It's a state Pennsylvania case, I believe. Televising of court proceedings varies based on jurisdiction. In Pennsylvania, state courts generally do not permit the broadcasting of trials. That's horrific. The whole point of a trial is for it to happen out in the open so we can see what's going on. They don't want that. That's why Sam Seder sounded so awkward. He knew how cringe it was. He didn't even talk about just the Jordan Neely trial. He said in general.
Agree. You brought up the penny thing, and I think, that's why it's more egregious, in my opinion, his killing of that man. I don't believe in that situation there was any type of threat that justified holding this guy in a chokehold for that many minutes.
What do you think, the penalty should be? Do you think, they're charging him, I think, with negligent, is it negligent homicide? I'm not sure.
At the very least, I would imagine manslaughter. I don't really parse out court cases. If there's a charge, as a matter of public policy, people should be charged. I didn't even watch the OJ trial.
I'm curious about your thoughts on this.
I'm curious about what you just said. Why did Tim have him on the show? I don't understand. Bro, you do a hit piece on me every day, and I get it because Tim's name, I've done that too, but I'm coming legit with mine. I'm not doing any bullshit like that. These are my true feelings. But Tim's name does, in the algorithm, if you put Donald Trump in a title, it's too vague unless you're a big channel or you already have a really strong following. But if you put in Anna Kasparian or Tim Pool, you have a chance of getting views. You've seen that in this channel. Ben Shapiro, Candace Owens, Tim Pool. I got 13,000 views. I usually get 100 views. Tim Pool in the title. And Sam Seder does the same thing. He's making real money, getting real big views. He's doing disingenuous pieces, misconstruing words. I don't do that nonsense. And I have you in the building. You keep doing hit pieces on me, which I understand why, but you're misconstruing things. You don't even follow the court cases. Tim lets that go because Tim doesn't follow the court cases either.
Police say riders didn't help women raped on train because of the bystander effect. Explain why. Philadelphia police said riders did not call 911 and instead held their cell phones up in direction of the assault. In a circumstance like this was a huge story. 40 minutes, a woman was harassed by a stranger on a public train and then raped while bystanders watched. What do you think a person should do in a circumstance like that?
I would fight him like it's a fight to the death. Because if you're on a train with me and you're violating a woman right in front of me, then that means you think you would be able to violate anybody on this train. I'm a lover, not a fighter, but that is a threat to everybody on the train. They're on the train. We covered this story when it came out. They're on the train and they have their cameras out as he's violating a woman right there. That ties into the Jordan Neely thing because you have Sam Seder come in and say he didn't have to yoke a nigga out. We weren't there. Some of the passengers said the nigga had to get yoked out. And part of the problem is in New York, there's no law enforcement anymore. I don't live there. I haven't been there since 2017. But there's no law enforcement on the train. So it's us. Quickly, it's the people. And I don't feel comfortable. This dude's talking about how he doesn't care if he lives or dies. He's out of his mind. He's not the Michael Jackson impersonator that they showed the picture of. There's a reason why they showed that picture and not what he looked like on the train. The way he looked would have scared people. You're used to it. You don't talk to the lunatics. That's a street rule. If you take public transportation, which I haven't in a while, but I used to in the 90s, up to 1996, every day in Cleveland, when you get involved with a crazy or somebody who's clearly angry or looks confused or whatever, you put your head down unless you think there's some type of violent threat. You let them talk it out. You don't bother them walking down the street or that all the time. Just walk down the street of any major city and people trying to ignore crazies. That's what they were doing. Right or wrong, that's what they were doing. So if you don't know, this homeless guy gets on trains acting crazy. I'll read some quotes. People felt threatened because he was loud. And Jordan Neely wasn't in the move. He had him in a hold for about 5-6 minutes. It was like a sleeper hold, put him to sleep permanently. And now it's a problem. Now he's getting the case. There's no protection. You're supposed to ignore it until you can't. He puts him to bed and now he gets the case.
At the very least, I would call 911.
No one did.
Over the course of 40 minutes,
People are afraid because they know if they get involved when they see somebody getting violated, they're going to get Daniel pennied.
Not familiar with this story, but if I watched someone being assaulted or raped, yes, I would intervene. I would push that person away. I would attempt to stop them.
Anybody
But
should.
what has that got to do with this?
What do you mean? The question is, when do you intervene? That's an extreme case, but it's the same scenario. You've got someone who is a threat on the train.
With Neely, you've got a woman who's felt her life was in danger, one of the witnesses.
There were people all around, and the idea that she felt her life was in danger, she's not communicating that to Neely. It was quite clear.
Whose show is this? I can't hear Tim. What's going on with the mics?
Minute 2, minute 3, minute 4, that this person is not going to end up killing that person. I would imagine that if this guy attempted to assault her anymore, Neely could have pushed him away, or they could have held them down. A chokehold is a lethal thing, and he held it for minutes.
Do you think that you would wait until the woman was being raped before you would intervene?
No, probably not.
But how would you know if the guy is a threat unless he's actively committing harm?
If he's actively committing harm, I would assume, I'm not familiar with that story, but I would assume that it would start out where the guy is physically assaulting her, holding her down. At that point, I would intervene. The problem in this instance, and again, the guy's been charged. That's where my interest.
The truth comes out in the trial. All you have now is media stories. They're under oath in the trial. So more comes out. You can't stop it. That's my take. So you adjust your take depending on the trial.
An instance where you're putting someone in a chokehold. He's trained.
He's a Marine.
He must know this is a lethal thing. You're putting someone in a chokehold for 5 or 6 minutes. I think that's a problem.
Yeah, I see both stories, and it seems like they're both on the ends. Jordan Neely didn't do anything. People may have felt threatened. It's a woman who was literally raped. In one instance, you have intervention.
People aren't calling 911.
Zero
I don't know what's
intervention.
going on there. That's absurd.
To me, it seems like Tim is shape-shifting depending on who he talks to. I just don't respect that. I don't know why he's doing that. I don't know what the benefit is. That's tough to watch. Some quotes from people there. A witness said, Neely said, "I don't care if I have to unlive an F, I will." He's on the train, nowhere to go. He's crazy. He's a bum. He says, according to the witness, "I don't care if I have to unlive an F. I'll go to jail. I'll take a bullet." That's a quote from a witness. Another witness said, "We were scared for our lives." But Sam Seder said they weren't scared. There's no reason for them to be scared. And Tim doesn't do anything. I think Tim should have probably preferenced that by, it's not a debate. I'm just trying to do an interview with you, and it would make more sense. What's the purpose of that? This person said, "Why in the world would you take a bullet? You don't take a bullet because you've snatched something from somebody's hands. You take a bullet for violence." Is that legitimate or not? The defense attorney has described Jordan Neely as seething, psychotic, unhinged rage, causing passengers on the train, men, women, and children, to cower in fear. They said that he said, "I don't care if I get unlived. I don't care if I go to jail. I don't have food. I don't have a drink. I'm fed up. I don't mind going to jail and getting life in prison. I'm ready to unlive." Sam Seder says, "No, it was fine. There was no threat there." Another witness said, Neely, and I quote, "Someone is going to get unlived today." That's what the cute Michael Jackson impersonator, that's what they said he said. The witness he said, "Somebody's going to get unlived today." No, they're not. We're going to yoke you out. Actually, you were right. Somebody is going to get unlived today, and you're the lucky contestant. Witnesses said Neely made a half lunge movement, said other passengers, within half a foot of people. You don't even need a producer on shows anymore. If you want to find it, you can look it up and find all your leftist sources right here. Why are we having these discussions without fleshing it out? It's right here. Give me all the quotes from the witnesses give me a deep dive, long response, all the quotes. It should be long. Here's the quotes. And it takes you to the article. If you don't believe the source, go straight to the source. Click on the reference. Here's your source. ABC 7. This is from November 2nd. So it's not me making it up. Not me saying that. This is the source right here that has the quotes from everybody here. So and that's the culture war. That's probably not even it. You get just now we find out through the court that after Neely had done basically wrapping around that dude, putting him to sleep after he got up. We saw the video, but got confirmation he was still breathing. He was still alive. Neely got interviewed and he said, "I'm not trying to unlive this dude. I'm just trying to subdue him." someone's going to get unlived, made threatening half-lunge movements at other passengers and was within half a foot of people. People were called fearing for their lives.
Middle MAGA.